Hello, everybody. Welcome. We're gonna get started at the top of the hour like usual. In the meantime, chill out with the stream beats. Copyright-free music by streamers for streamers. Stream beats is music that is compiled by Harris Heller of Alpha Gaming. And you will not get any copyright strikes if you use stream beats in your Twitch videos, your YouTube live videos, or your pre-recorded videos that you post on YouTube or TikTok or any of the other channels. Alright, so sit back, relax for a few minutes, and enjoy the music. Alright, everybody, before we get started, just want to mention that the music you are listening to is Stream Beats. Stream Beats is music by streamers for streamers compiled by Harris Heller of Alpha Gaming. You will not get any copyright strikes in your live streams or your posted videos when you use Stream Beats. Also, when I ask you to go check out Mo over at the tabletopbellhop.com. Mo is the OG when it comes to all kinds of tabletop games, party games, board games, card games, family games, strange games, TTRPGs. Anything you want to know about those, he's got at Tabletop Bellhop, and a whole galaxy of people making podcasts, streams, and videos about it. Alright, we're going to go ahead and bring the music down, and we are going to get started. Welcome everybody to Monster Monday. I am DM Gallibond. Tonight is July 19th, 2021, and on this edition of Monster Monday, we are going to be talking about the Naga. Yes, you may have thought, if you're one of them Vidger gamers, you may have thought that the Nagas originated in World of Warcraft. But no, you would be wrong. The Nagas, at least in terms of games, at least go as far back as AD&D. I don't know the real mythological history of them, but wherever D&D got them, but they've been around since the first edition of D&D. So we are going to take a look at that tonight. And let's go ahead and dive right in to the Naga. All right, this is a picture of the Dark Naga from 2nd edition D&D, from the 2nd edition Monstrous Manual. And as we always do, we go to the earliest example for our description and work forward, and then for our lore, we go from the most recent example and work our way backward. So, they first appeared in AD&D, or 1st edition D&D, and we get the description: Naga are snake-like creatures with good brains and magical abilities. They are encountered in warm climates in most cases. And in 2nd edition, possessing high intelligence and magical abilities, Naga are snake-like creatures with human heads. And then in 3rd edition, and specifically about the Dark Naga, this snake-like creature has a deep purple body covered in fine scales, making it look rather like a great eel. Its tail ends in a barbed stinger. Its head resembles an eel's, but has a human-like visage. Creepy. All right, yes, the Naga is one of those kind of creepy monsters that combines humanoid elements with very animalistic features. All right, now this is an image of what we call a Bone Naga from 5th edition. And as you might imagine, the Bone Naga is an undead. It's an undead version of one of these things. So, what is Naga Lore? What do we learn from 5th edition? We learn that they are benevolent dictators and brutal tyrants. A Naga rules its domain with absolute authority. Whether it rules with compassion or by terrorizing its subjects, the Naga believes itself the master of all other creatures that inhabit its domain. And from 4th edition, we learn that Nagas are immortal guardians that protect knowledge, rituals, magic items, and magical locations. Hey, DMs, that right there tells you where it's going to come into your campaign. You need something to protect knowledge, rituals, magic items, or magical locations? That's a good spot to put a Naga. So neither starvation nor old age will ever claim a Naga, but it can be destroyed. So they're immortal, but not immune to being killed. So, all right. And specifically a Bone Naga. What we learn about a Bone Naga in 3rd edition D&D is that a Bone Naga was once a living Dark Naga. After its death, it was transformed into a skeletal undead creature by another Dark Naga through a horrific ritual. So if you were a Dark Naga, would you turn your friends into Bone Nagas? Or would you turn your enemies into Bone Nagas? Think about that. I can't tell you, because in your game, you decide. All right, it's like that old NFL commercial. Is this play a penalty? You decide. All right, now, in 5th edition, as we know, every creature in the Monster Manual has a type, or every creature, whether it comes from the Monster Manual or some other sort, source has a type. And for the Naga, and I'll say this is true for all the Nagas except for the Bone Naga. The Bone Naga is an undead, but all of the other Nagas are monstrosities. And monstrosities are monsters in the strictest sense, and monstrosity is sort of that catch-all, so it can be, it's not an outer planar creature, which are aberrations. It's not a humanoid creature. Doesn't fit into the giants. It's not a dragon. It's not an undead. It's not an elemental. Doesn't really fit with any of this. We'll just throw it in the monstrosity category. So that's where it goes. All right, and this is an image of the Spirit Naga from 3rd edition. The common features of Nagas throughout all the editions. They all have the humanoid head and the snake-like body, but the artwork is very, very different from edition to edition. And that's one of the things that makes it kind of cool, because then you have a lot of different examples as a DM. A lot of different examples, even if you're looking at the same kind of Naga from edition to edition. You can say, well, it kind of looks like this, or it kind of looks like that. It's basically whatever you prefer. And then, of course, the Nagas in your game can look significantly different, and you may just use art from the book as a starting off point. All right, now we're going to dig into the mechanical features of the Nagas. And as you see here, we got a lot to go through, all the way from first edition AD&D. So we are going to bring up the page that has the Naga from the first edition Monster Manual. All right, so the Naga, there were 3 flavors of Naga from the very beginning of the game, or from first edition when they first appeared to the game. You had the Guardian Naga, the Spirit Naga, and the Water Naga. Hey, Skyland, good to see you. Thanks for dropping by tonight. The Guardian Nagas are very rare, the Spirit Nagas are rare, and the Water Nagas are uncommon. And as you can see, the more rare they are, the tougher their armor class is, and the more hit dice they have. And also, the Guardian Naga get 2 attacks, whereas the other ones get only 1 attack. And now it's also interesting, they are very different in their temperaments. So the Guardian Naga is wise and good. They're found principally in sacred places, guarding treasure of lawful good minions, or as watchers over some evil. In addition to poisonous biting for 1d6 points of damage and constricting for 2d8, they can spit poison at an individual creature up to 30 feet away. And you make a save versus poison, or you die. You don't take point damage, you die if it spits on you and you fail your save. It also has the ability to use clerical spells. So they get 2 first level, 2 second level, 1 third level, and 1 fourth level clerical spell every day. And it said that they are covered in green gold scales with silvery triangles along the back with golden eyes. Now, Spirit Naga, on the other hand, are totally evil, and they seek to do harm wherever and whenever possible. They dwell in ruined, dismal, or subterranean places. In addition to the poisonous bite, they can permanently charm any humanoid creature that meets a gaze of these monsters, unless a saving throw versus paralyzation is made. So now, you know what that means. When they say permanent charm, that means you don't get another saving throw. The charm doesn't wear off. You get 1 chance. Or the DM says, "May I have your character sheet, please? Thank you very much. Okay, there's some dice. Go roll up a new character. This is now an NPC under control of this Naga. Thanks for playing." And Spirit Naga are black-scaled with crimson bands. Their heads are bulbous and have a very human appearance, even to coloration and hair. Now, they have clerical spells of 5th ability. So, first, second, and 3rd level. Oh, no, I'm sorry. They have 5th level magic use and 4th level cleric ability. So they get 1st, 2nd, and 3rd level magic user spells. They also get 1st and 2nd cleric spells. So they can do divine magic and arcane magic. And then Water Naga, found only in clear freshwater. These are curious but quite neutral in attitude. They seldom attack unless threatened or attacked first. Generally inhabit places many feet beneath the surface of a pool, lake, or river, seldom disturbed in their lair. They have the poisonous bite, and they use magic user spells of 5th level ability. So water naga are emerald green to turquoise in reticulated pattern with chocolate brown and pale jade green or dark gray and olive. Their eyes are pale green to bright amber. You know, it's a real shame that back in AD&D they didn't do color artwork, because some of the descriptions of these monsters is like, it would really be nice to see these monsters in the colors that they are described in this book. Okay, then staying in first edition, we go to the Monster Manual 2, and we bring up another creature we are going to talk about, because guess what? This is going to be something we're going to look at when we talk about reskinning the Naga. The Ophidian is a creature that came in to D&D in first edition, and I think the last time we saw it was either in second or third edition. It hasn't been in the game since. So it's a creature that has gone extinct in D&D, but that doesn't mean it has to be extinct at your table. It means you can take a similar creature, reskin it, and use some of these things. Well, why would you want to use this creature? Well, let's talk a little bit about this. The Ophidians are snake men, typically encountered in tropical jungles. Unlike Nagas, Ophidians have human-like arms and hands and can employ weapons, shields, and magic items of the sort fighters can use. Attack is first by weapon and a fanged bite. Latter requires a saving throw versus poison, or the victim will suffer a lycanthrope-like affliction. This begins 1d4 plus 1 days, lasts 2d8 days, and ends by turning the creature into an Ophidian, if it was a human or humanoid, or killing it otherwise. And the process can be prevented by a cure disease spell. That's why you might want to have an Ophidian in your game. You want were-snakes in your game? You want to have members of your party potentially turned into a were-snake? Voila, I give you the Ophidian. So the armor class, basically 5 or better. That means it's got a natural armor class of 5. Or, hey, if it wears armor, it's going to do that. 3 to 4 hit dice. It has a weapon and the bite attack, and then obviously you get that lycanthrope effect if it bites you. So it's unusual for Ophidians to be in self-determined groups. They're usually servants of spirit Nagas or similar creatures. So they appear to be short-tailed, thick-bodied snakes. Arms protrude about 2 feet below the neck, human-like, and end in 4-fingered hands. Color ranges from gray-black to black and dark brownish-green to pale blue-green. All right. Hey, Amish. Good to see you, too. Glad you could make it tonight. All right, so now we go to second edition. And we have, once again, the Guardian Naga, the Spirit Naga, and the Water Naga. And those are very similar to what we saw in first edition in terms of their armor class, their hit dice, their movement, their size, all of that sort of thing. Now, we do learn here that they are cold-blooded. So Naga are reptilian, have glittering scales, and grow to an adult length of 10 to 20 feet. They have lidless eyes, bright and wide, almost luminescent, and their spines are armored with sharp triangular extensions that grow in a line from the napes of their necks to the tips of their tails. So they've got, like, basically dorsal spines. Now, another thing they learn, something you can use at your table. Naga often set traps to snare trespassers. Magical spells are always attempted first, since Naga have few melee skills. Once their magic is expended, Naga rely on their poisonous bites. Only the largest of these creatures can actually constrict victims like a giant snake. So they live solitary lives, hunting or foraging over an area, usually only a quarter-mile square. They prefer dwelling in a deep hole, but sometimes they found out curled up in ruins or a darkened room. And one While they don't produce trade goods, their lives span many human generations, and they keep a detailed oral history, so they are good sources of information. Aha! That's another reason to use them. Often protectors of treasures or artifacts for centuries. Their hides can be fashioned in a scale mail +2, and their eyes and teeth have been sold for use in arcane spells. So, now here's another possibility. Do you run a monster hunting campaign? Do you basically are your PCs a group that goes out and hunts for magical components for wizards or for warlords or things like that or whatnot? You could have your party sent out to hunt a Naga because somebody wants to make scale mail +2 out of their hide. And then if you're that kind of DM, you can have the Naga maybe make a counter offer. And so, all right, now what's going to be the better offer to the party? Do they want to get that nice +2 scale mail? They want to get that hide and get that payday? Or maybe the payday the Naga is offering is bigger. Once again, fun things you can do. All right, Guardian Naga is, again, it's lawful good, and it's a perfect sentinel over a like-aligned being's treasure, or it guards against some evil. And it always warns off trespassers, and then buries those it has defeated in battle. It can spit poison, 30-foot range, and the poison kills anyone who fails their saving throw versus poison. And then the Spirit Naga, they smell of rotting flesh, which happens to be their preferred food. So hiding in deserted ruins or caverns, these evil and cunning Spirit Nagas seek to cause harm to any creature that passes through their domains. They're not big enough. They have a poisonous bite, a gaze that charms, and can use wizard spells, 5th level ability. Okay, Water Naga, once again, almost exactly the same as in 1st edition. But now, in 2nd edition, we get the Dark Naga. Okay, so the Dark Nagas, they are fey creatures. So now, Dark Nagas are Nagas from the Feydark. Hey, guess what? There's that source book coming out later this year on the Feydark. You now already have a custom monster that you can throw into your Feydark arc of your campaign. You can put together a Dark Naga for that. They usually work with other evil beings for mutual gain or survival, tend to be black, purplish black, or very dark blue in hue. Their crested heads are smooth, almost invisible scales make them look like gigantic eels more than snakes. Now, Dark Nagas have ESP powers and use this ability constantly. Now, notice that the poison from the Dark Naga doesn't come from their bite, but from their tail stinger. And they, and if you fail your save versus poison, you will fall into a deep sleep. And they have 6th level wizard capabilities, so they're immune to the effects of all known acids, venoms, and poisons. Some have been known to swallow poisons and act as a courier, spitting out the dangerous liquid when they deliver it to its destination. And they can spit poison they are so carrying up to 10 feet distant at any opponent. In battle, a Dark Naga may use its sting in either a spell or a bite at the same round. If the space permits, a Naga can direct its sting and bite against the same foe, but is quite intelligent enough to direct different attacks at multiple opponents. So they cannot be mind-read. They are subject but resistant to charm, sleep, hold, and similar enchantment charm spells, receiving a +2 bonus on all of their saves. And Dark Nagas do not willingly eat other Dark Nagas, but they will eat just about anything else, both alive and dead. They eat a few lichens and occasional green plant, but their main diet is meat. They especially prize hot, still fresh blood. Um, Dark Nagas spend their lives outwardly working with or serving others. When possible, they also pursue private goals, which may be as whimsical and odd as some human goals. So cover this desert valley with trees, for instance. All right, that seems kind of weird. But always includes increasing their personal power by acquiring new spells and magical items. So, how old is the Naga you're going to put in your campaign? If it's really old, it's probably going to have a little bit better loot. You're going to really disappoint your players if you tell them you're sending them after an ancient Naga, and they get there, and it's just got a lousy +1 dagger. That's all this thing has. Oh my god, I can't believe you sent us all this way just for this. We could have just gone down to Al's Magic Shop in Waterdeep and bought one of those. All right. Now, we look at 3rd edition. 3rd edition, we will find our Dark Naga, as well as some of our other favorite kinds of Nagas. And in 3rd edition, snake-like creatures, deep purple body, covered in fine scales, yada yada. So very, very similar to 2nd edition. Now, notice in 3rd edition, because it's a spellcaster, this would now cast as a 7th level sorcerer, and a save against its spells is charisma based, and the spells that it knows 6 cantrips, 7 first level spells, 7 second level spells, 5 third level spells, and then it gives you a sample array that you can just assign to the Naga. Then you have the Guardian Naga, which we've already seen in the picture, and they're wise and good, so that tracks. The can spit its venom up to 30 feet. Now, spells are cleric domains of good and law, and it is a 9th level caster. So again, 6 cantrips, 7 first level, 7 second level, 7 third level, and 5 fourth level spells at its finger, or at its available to it, I should say. And here's the suggested list. Then we have the Spirit Naga. And notice also that in this edition, they are considered aberrations. That's another thing you'll find in D&D, is that from edition to edition, they may categorize what the monsters are, but sometimes they switch categories because the editors think, oh, well, that doesn't fit into what we're thinking of as an aberration now. It's really better over here in this other category. So the Spirit Nagas cast spells like a 7th level sorcerer, and it has 6 cantrips, 7 first level, 7 second level, and 5 third level spells. Then we also have the Water Naga. Water Nagas often prove bad-tempered or mischievous, although they usually do not attack to kill unless they feel threatened. So now that's a little bit of a change from what we learned before. And they are, again, act like 7th level sorcerers, and they know 6 cantrips, 7 first level, 7 second level, and 4 third level spells. All right. And then in 3rd edition, we also get the Bone Naga. So Bone Naga, very much, again, it's an undead like the previous one. But the Bone Naga, look at this. The Bone Naga is quite a bit tougher than it was in previous editions. It's now a 15 hit die monster. Challenge rating of 11, which is a bit a bit tougher than the Water Naga and tougher than the Spirit Naga, and actually even tougher than the Guardian Naga. So the Bone Naga in 3rd edition is really kind of the alpha of all of the Nagas. The Bone Naga was once a living Dark Naga, and it was transformed into Skeleton Undead by another Dark Naga. And they cast spells as a 14th level sorcerer. So, and notice it breaks this down by the number of spells it knows and the number of spells it can use per day. So it knows 9 cantrips, 5 first level, 5 second level, 4 third level, 4 fourth level, 3 fifth level, 2 6th level, and 1 7th level spell. And then it can cast 6 cantrips, 7 first, 7 second, 7 third, 6 fourth, 6 fifth, 5 6th, and 3 7th level spells every single day. It has the ability to continuously detect the thoughts of people around it, and it can shield its own thoughts from other people, can communicate telepathically with any creature within 250 feet that has a language, and it's immune to all the things that undead are immune to. And here's an image of the Bone Naga. So it looks very much just like a skeletal creature, but it's got those sort of glowing eye sockets and a glowing maw inside its mouth. And hey, in 3rd edition, looky what we have found once again. We have found our dear friend, the Ophidian. The Ophidian is, once again, a reptile, armor class 17. And hey, these guys come equipped with a shield and a scimitar. So that was another nice thing that they started doing in 3rd edition, is they just started equipping monsters that would wear armor or have weapons, so that as a DM you wouldn't have to say, okay, now I picked this monster, now I have to go and figure out what it's going to use in combat. It just makes it a little bit easier to pick up and go with the monster. All right, and again we have very much similar information about the Ophidian from earlier editions. Now look at the image. Now not only does it have these arms, which look kind of more like lizard arms than humanoid arms, but it also has very much lizard legs. And it does have that serpentine curse where it will do lycanthropy and transform a person into an Ophidian. And it even gives you guidance on what you would do with an Ophidian character. So if you have somebody at your table that really wants to play an Ophidian, well, here's a template you can use. Obviously, this is tuned for 3rd edition, but you can kind of give use that as a guideline if you want to custom homebrew that in 5th edition or a different edition game. All right, and then I think somewhere I thought I had written it down. I guess I didn't. Maybe I don't have the source book that the Ophidian appears in 2nd edition, because I would have thought that they would have had it there if it showed up in 3rd edition as well. But now in 4th edition, we have our favorite Guardian Naga, level 12 elite artillery, the Bone Naga, which is a level 16 elite controller, and the Dark Naga, which in 4th edition looks like it's the alpha. That is a level 21 elite controller. And the Dark Naga has an armor class of 36, 404 hit points. It moves 40 feet per round. Oh, no. Hey, guess what? It's not the Alpha. The Alpha is the Primordial Naga. The Primordial Naga is a level 25 solo artillery. So, in 4th edition, when it says solo, that means you're not supposed to put any other monsters against the party with it, because this thing is, bad enough all by itself that it can take on an entire party as a single monster. So it gets plus 18 on its initiative. It has the fire and lightning energy cascade. So 2 enemies that start or enter their turns in the aura, which is 10 feet around it, take 10 fire and lightning damage. 1,200 hit points, armor class of 41, resist 20 acid, 40 cold, 30 fire. So that means if you want to damage it with acid, you have to deal at least 21 points of acid, or else it doesn't count. 41 points of cold, or it doesn't count, or 31 points of fire, or it doesn't count. That was what they did in 4th edition. I don't think there's anything in 4th edition that was, strictly speaking, immune to any kind of damage, but a lot of them had super high resistances, so that unless you dealt an amazing amount of damage of that particular type, you weren't really going to do much of anything to it. And it's got, one of the reasons it's solo is because it kind of morphs and melds a Naga with a Hydra, because the Primordial Naga has 5 heads, and it can make bite attacks with each of those heads. And instead of taking poison damage, you'll take acid damage ongoing if you get bitten by one of those. And it can spit fire. The Wild Slam, I guess that would be basically its tail attack. And then it has a breath weapon, Freezing Breath. So this thing, has a ton of different attacks. And here is a picture of all of our different Naga from 4th edition. We have our Dark Naga over here, our Guardian Naga here, Primordial, as if you couldn't tell, with the 5 heads, and then the Bone Naga over here. All right, now in 5th edition, there's actually a couple of different ways that I decided to look at this. The first one, I went to the 5th edition monster manual, because since Nagas are a monster type, I thought, well, maybe there's some interesting information about Nagas that you find in the monster manual that don't appear with each individual monster. And yes, there is something here which kind of gives us another little bit of a clue as DMs how we might decide where we would want to use a Naga. So the first Nagas were created as immortal guardians by a humanoid race long lost to history. When this race died out, the Nagas deemed themselves the rightful inheritors of their master's treasures and magical lore. Industrious and driven, Nagas occasionally venture out from their lairs to track down magic items or rare spellbooks. They never feel the ravages of time or succumb to sickness. Even if it is struck down, a Naga's immortal spirit reforms in a new body in a matter of days, ready to continue its eternal work. So, in 5th edition, they are pretty much immune to being killed. They can be destroyed, but after a time, they're going to come back. And they're going to resume doing what they're doing. So probably not a good idea as a party to get one of these on your bad side, because you're going to be dealing with it over and over and over and over again, unless you, as the DM, have a way that you can allow your party to figure out how they can permanently destroy the Naga so it won't keep coming back again and again and again and again. All right. So the Bone Naga. In response to the long history of conflict between the Yuan-Ti and the Nagas, Yuan-Ti created a necromantic ritual that could halt a Naga's resurrection by transforming the living Naga into a skeletal undead servitor. A Bone Naga retains only a few of the spells it knew in life. Now, notice whereas in some of the other editions, the Bone Naga was very high on the food chain. In 5th edition, it's only a CR4, so it is the weakest of the Nagas, because this lore tells us that the ritual originated with Yuan-Ti. So remember, Yuan-Ti are those snake people that you run into when you're in the Tomb of Annihilation down in Chult. The Nagas are not part of that. Well, I guess is there a Naga? I think there is a Naga in that adventure, but in a different part of the jungle. And so it's setting up that the Nagas and the Yuan-Ti are bitter enemies, bitter rivals as snake people. So then we have Guardian Naga, wise and good. Beautiful Guardian Nagas protect sacred places and items of magical power from falling into evil hands. In their hidden redoubts, they research spells and hatch convoluted plots to thwart the evil designs of their enemies. It doesn't seek out violence, warning off intruders rather than attacking. Only if a foe persists does the Naga attack, accosting enemies with its spells and poisonous spittle. Okay. And the Guardian Naga is a CR10 monster in fifth edition. And then we have the Spirit Naga. Okay, so the Spirit Naga, they live in gloom and spitefulness, constantly plotting vengeance against creatures that have wronged them, or that they believe have wronged them. Lairing in dismal caverns and ruins, they devote their time to developing new spells and enslaving the mortals with which they surround themselves. The Spirit Naga likes to charm its foes, drawing them close so it can sink its poisonous fangs into their flesh. Okay, so hear me out. Here's an idea I'm going to give you for free that you can use with the Spirit Naga. All right, the party is given by a mysterious benefactor, is given a magical item. Turns out that magical item was actually stolen from a Spirit Naga. And the Spirit Naga wants it back. And it's tracking down that item. Oh, and now it knows who has it. So, you could have this eternal guardian, this eternal evil terrorizing Spirit Naga that says, I want my stuff back. And the party would just have to deal with it over and over again. So, all right, that's an option. And that might lead into a whole series of quests or a whole arc of your story. Or maybe there's a Spirit Naga and a Guardian Naga that are in a battle over a certain item that both of them claim rightfully belongs to them. All right, so let's go ahead and go back to our slides, and we will take a look at using Nagas in encounters. Now, since in 5th edition, they're all different challenge ratings, I decided to go with the middle of the road, the CR8, which is the Spirit Naga. And how would you create a hard encounter for a party of a certain level? So a level 5 party would find a Spirit Naga a hard encounter. And so you could just throw the Spirit Naga out there by itself, and it ought to pose a challenge, although not an insurmountable one, to a 5th level party. Now, if your party is level 6 or 7, it's going to be a medium challenge, and for a level 7 party, you can throw an adult Kuthric, which is a CR3 monster, at the party, and that will make it a hard challenge. Then for levels 8 through 11, it becomes an easy challenge. But if you want to make it a hard challenge for an 11th level party, you can add a second Spirit Naga and an adult Kuthrik, and that will make it a hard challenge for your level 11 party. All right, now if you are a party and you are fighting against against a Naga that your DM has thrown against you, and once again, here's our lovely 3rd edition Bone Naga right here. So beware of their spell casting. All Nagas in 5th edition, and really all the way back to the beginning of the game, as we've seen, all Nagas are spellcasters. They can impact the battle by using mind control spells to neutralize their enemies or turn them against each other. Because in 5th edition, some of those Nagas have things like Dominate Person. So they can literally just say, Mr. Fighter, you. Okay, now you go attack the cleric for me. Yeah, be a good boy. That's right. Yeah, cut him deep. That's something that some Nagas can do. And then you have they have other variations of mind control, like hold person or charm person or sleep or things of that nature that they can deploy against an enemy party and thin out the enemies or perhaps neutralize them for part of the battle. And then in addition to that, they usually also have a range of offensive spells. So also in 5th edition, avoid the bite, because all Nagas can deliver a nasty amount of poison damage to their bite in addition to some painful piercing damage. So if you're a party, you want to stay away from the spells and stay away from the bite. Now, if you're a DM, and this is a picture of our Naga from first edition Monster Manual. So you have a range of options in 5th edition as a DM. So Nagas range from CR4, the Bone Naga, to CR10, the Guardian Naga. This lets you challenge parties from Tier 1 to low Tier 3. And also remember, Nagas have a range of spell sources, cleric or wizard, and alignments. So all of the Nagas, good or evil, are arrogant and believe that other creatures should bow to their wisdom and obey their instructions. As such, they also have huge egos, which you should allow the PCs to manipulate if they are clever enough to take the right tactics at the beginning of an encounter. Now, depending on how experienced your players are, and depending on whether they like to, attack first and ask questions later, that may not do well. But you can just sort of put yourself in the mindset of someone who is so cocky and so sure of themselves that whatever it is they want to do must absolutely be right. And there's no possibility that there could be any other option. And if you have really good players that like to sort of find the chinks of the armor, play that up for them so they realize, oh, maybe this guy has a blind spot and maybe we can figure out what it is. And that could have an encounter go a certain way. And you might have a really fun encounter that maybe doesn't turn into the kind of combat encounter everybody thought it was going to be, or it does become a combat, but after the party has figured out a few other things. So also remember that Nagas are guardians, sometimes of treasure, sometimes of knowledge. And you can play with this aspect to decide how the Naga will react and whether the knowledge they guard is to be kept away from everyone or if it's to be shared with those that the Naga deems worthy. So I very much think there's room for using Nagas in a campaign as kind of an intermediary quest giver. You might, you know, you might be sent off by the king or the queen or whoever the party ostensibly works for back in their home base to go forth and discover, the freezing sphere of Frigidaire, and bring this back so that the kingdom can have ice cream all year round. All right. Yeah, your king is frivolous. That's what he wants. Okay, but he's paying a lot of gold, so we're going to go do that. And you go out and you track down all the clues, and eventually it leads you to discover that there is a guardian Naga that has the freezing sphere of Frigidaire. And maybe it's willing to give that up, but maybe it's going to test the party to see if they're worthy of it. So that could be another way of using them. So then that could become a way of giving out quests. Or maybe there's a threat to the Naga, and the Naga says, hey, if you go and deal with this threat, I will give you the freezing sphere of Frigidaire as a reward for going and dealing with that. So, something like that. There's lots of different things you can do in that vein. All right. So now, where are you going to place this? Now, this is the Guardian Naga from 5th edition. And that really depends on which Naga you're going to use. And this is presuming you're running a 5e game. Obviously, if you're running a different edition, you would consult the monster manual in the appropriate edition to figure out where it would go. So in 5th edition, the Bone Naga is a tier 1 monster that can be found among undead, perhaps in a crypt where some treasure or secret is buried. So remember we were talking when we did mummies last week that a mummy might be the boss in a low-level crypt where the party has been out to find something. And if you don't want to use a mummy, a Bone Naga is a good alternative, because the Bone Naga would probably set up with some sort of magical wards, would set up where it would have some sort of control over all of these undead that were running around and doing all of its bidding that way. Then a Spirit Naga is an evil tier 2 monster. They're the most spiteful and vengeful of the Nagas. Could seldom be expected to see allies in anyone. A very clever and persuasive party that studies the motivations of a particular Spirit Naga might be able to use its focused sense of vengeance to pry out information the monster may not realize it's revealing. Once again, that arrogance. Nagas would be a great James Bond villain. The kind of villain that's going to tie up the hero and then wax poetic about how its glorious evil plan is going to come to fruition. And now that I have you tied up, and you are going to die, Mr. Bond, nobody is going to be able to stop me. Ha 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 ha. So, a Spirit Naga would be that kind of enemy that would just love to sort of prove, in air quotes, how smart it is when it thinks it has the party beaten. And the Guardian Naga is the strongest and most noble of the Nagas in 5e, and the most likely that a group of heroic adventurers could expect to be an ally. So the Guardian Naga believes that whatever it's guarding is under threat from other forces. Adventurers may be able to render aid and gain some important knowledge, or perhaps even material aid in their own quest from one of these monsters. All right, so then let's see. Now, Reskinning the Monster. Ooh. This is why I told you about the Ophidian. So earlier editions of D&D, there was a third snake-like monster that joined the UNT and the Nagas called the Ophidian. Interesting quality of these monsters is their bite can infect a victim with a disease that would transform them into Ophidian after a failed saving throw. So, bringing back one of these as a home through monster, perhaps treat it like a serpentine lycanthrope. That's really kind of that was sort of the primary thing that came to mind when I started doing research on Nagas, is that the Ophidian would be a great homebrew addition to a campaign, especially a campaign that is heavy with a theme of lycanthropy, lycanthropic monsters. And with the fact that they're usually relatively low-level monsters, you would probably have them run into Ophidians around the same time they'd be running into things like werewolves or perhaps were-rats or things of that nature. So it would be a relatively low-level party, and it could just throw a serious monkey wrench into the cogs of a party because, oh crap, now this is a homebrew lycanthrope. What the hell? How the hell are we going to cure this lycanthropy? That gives you another opportunity as a DM to come up with a custom way that you can cure Ophidian lycanthropy. It might not be the same thing that cures other forms of lycanthropy, because maybe Ophidians are not from the material plane. Maybe Ophidians are from the Feywild, and magic doesn't quite work the same way against that lycanthropy as it does against the lycanthropy of werewolves and wereboars and werebears and yada yada yada. All that kind of stuff. So, just an idea. Do with that what you will, but that was kind of where my mind first went when I thought about how could you reskin a Naga. And this is how. All right, so now let's take a look. Thank you guys in chat for being here and for your questions. Okay, so Skyland, would a Bone Naga work or be under the control of a Necromancer? It very well might. Or, if we're looking at last week, a Bone Naga might be under the control of a Mummy Lord. Like if there's sort of if the evil incorporated of your campaign is decidedly undead, well, you know, the Mummy or the Mummy Lord is probably going to be the regional director that is under the control of something like a Draco Lich or an actual Lich, as the alpha monster of that corporation. But the Bone Naga certainly might be in that tree underneath the Mummy Lord or underneath a Necromancer or something like that. And yes, there are very many possibilities that you could do with Nagas because of the fact that they have come down to us with the multiple flavors of Nagas, and they've always had those multiple types of Nagas. And that's an interesting thing I thought when I was looking at this monster, is how this is a monster that's relatively staple in D&D, has existed in all editions of the game. You don't necessarily run into them a whole lot, but there's a good variety right out of the source books that you don't have to go and invent a lot of things. And so by looking at what other sort of related monsters have been in D&D and now have gone out of D&D, just like when we were talking about the Mummy, we talked about the Adherer, how that has disappeared from D&D, and you could reskin a Mummy as an Adherer. You can now reskin a Naga as an Ophidian. All right, well, thank you everybody for spending a little bit of your Monday evening with us. I am going to go on into the wrap-up. I have been DM Gallibond, and this has been Monster Monday for July 19th, 2021. We've been talking about the Naga tonight, and don't forget that we are here streaming on both YouTube and Twitch now. We stream on both platforms simultaneously 4 times a week. We're always here Monday nights with Monster Monday. We're back on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. with our 5th edition game, the Sword Coast Chronicles. Saturday night at 7:30, we have our Saturday night Greyhawk game. And this week we will not have a Saturday night Greyhawk game because I will be at a soccer game on Saturday night. I won't be running the game Saturday night. And then on Sundays at 2 p.m. we do our 5th edition Planeswalking game, the Walker of Waterdeep. So all those times are Eastern time. You can find us on Twitch, you can find us on YouTube, and we do have a Patreon set up. So if you want to help us do some more stuff and create more content on the channel, go head over to the Patreon. And if you're following us or if you're catching us on Twitch, please go ahead and follow or subscribe to the channel there on Twitch. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, like the videos, share the videos, and click the post notification bell because we do post videos straight to YouTube from time to time, and the archives of everything that we've done live on YouTube in their appropriate playlist. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Oh, Amish. All right. Good. Glad you're going to catch up on the VODs. Hope you enjoy the sessions from this week. And everybody else, thank you so much for coming. Hope you have a wonderful week. And I'll sign off, as I always do, by reminding you to watch out for the monsters under the bed. Good night, everybody.